Alright, let's look at number 8 and our homework from chapter 2, lesson 4. Alright, hopefully you read the directions carefully. It says that the derivative is graphed on the left, and from there they want us to find what the possible function can be. So we're going to do our best to take a look at it. So what do we notice is, let's just go ahead and identify a couple of key spots. Remember, the derivative is equal to the slope of the original function. Alright, so that's kind of important. So the derivative of the original function is equal to 0 here at negative 1, 2, looks like negative 3. A little bit past 3 maybe. 1, 2, 3. So anyway, somewhere over here at negative 1, 2, and 3, we're going to have a slope equal to 0. Okay? And we're also going to find that at positive 1, 2, 3, maybe 3.5, we have another slope at negative 3, and at x equals maybe 3.5. I'm just kind of guessing on that one, but that's pretty close. So recall from the previous video that when the derivative equals 0, it's either going to create a relative max, or it could be a relative minimum, which would look like this. And just to re-emphasize it, we have positive slope indicating increasing function, and then it has a spot where it's equal to 0, and then we have a series of negative slopes on the way down, where it's just the opposite occurs on the relative minimum, where you have a slope equal to 0 at the vertex, and then we have very large negative, and then the negatives start to decrease, and it hits 0, and then we start getting a little positive and a lot positive and very, very positive towards the right. So all we need to do is look to the left here, and we can see that the derivative is negative, and it's about a negative 10, I guess it would be down here, and then it starts to slowly get less and less until we get to negative 1, and then we hit 0 again here. So which one of these, as we move from the left to the right, starts off being negative, and then a little bit less negative, a little bit less negative until we hit 0, and that would indicate that we're going to have excuse me, a relative minimum somewhere. So we have our relative minimum there, and then just as we continue on, we'll change colors. It becomes positive right here. It's positive here, and it reaches a maximum positive of 1, 2, 3, 4. So the slope is equal to 4 here. And then it starts to decrease a little bit. I mean, it's still increasing, the function's still increasing, but the slope would start to equal a little bit less, and then right here the slope is equal to 3, slope is equal to 2, slope is equal to 1, and then hit 0. And then in this section we have a negative 1, looks like the derivative would be negative 2, negative 3, etc., until we get down to like negative 10 down here at the end of the graph. So let's take a look at some possibilities here. So if we start here, we notice that the original function has a relative minimum right around here, right, at 3. So I'll go ahead and 1, 2, 3. And we'll just say that the relative minimum is here, and really we're just guessing at this point. But we know that this function is decreasing here, right? And then eventually it flattens out. And then we start increasing pretty rapidly, and then it sort of steadies out a little bit. Still increasing here. And remember our second spot at x equals positive 3.5, we have to have what? If we're going from positive to negative, and positive to negative indicates a relative max. So when we get over here to 1, 2, 3, in between 3 and 4, maybe somewhere right in here, it looks like it has to change directions. And then the slope starts to become more and more and more negative, so it becomes more steep as we move along. So, and let me emphasize that this is the function over here, and this is really just an educated guess as to what it could be, because let me try to trace. Does it make sense that this function I'm about to draw with a highlighter is pretty much the same thing, right? It's just that this graph has been shifted down. And likewise, we could have one that's even off the chart, but kind of mimics the same pattern. It's just shifted off of it a little bit. So you can't really precisely give it, but you can identify some of the key elements, and that is what we're going to call a relative minimum here and a relative maximum at this little peak right here, or the vertex. Okay, so now go ahead and try the rest of these, and I'm sure you'll be well on your way to success.